This is the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, bringing you the info you need to make your next move a great one. This show is brought to you by RE/MAX Ace Realty. For show notes and links, go to acerealtypa.com/podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Chester County Podcast. I'm your host, Sean, and today I'm sitting down with Bobby Hulmes, Associate Broker here at RE/MAX Ace Realty. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what the 2023, what year is it? Yeah, the 2023 market might look like from a buyer's perspective and how that might inform those who are looking to sell. We've spoken a lot about listings and sellers, so we're going to try to wrap around a little bit from a buyer's perspective and what it looks like from a buyer's agent. Bobby, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Always have fun when I do this. Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about yourself as far as what you do as far as buyers go, because I feel like everyone knows Bobby Hulmes, the listing agent.
Yeah, the man behind the man, right?
So, but you're just as busy with buyers, correct?
Sure. I think it's truly important to maintain relationships with buyers and sellers and have a balance. You need the perspective of really if I'm listing a home, you need the perspective of what are buyers looking for. It's important to keep up with trends. Mm-hmm. It's important to understand your demographic market and different price ranges of what those people are looking for. That's the only way I can bring the best information into homes of sellers, and because one of their big questions is, well, what should I do to my home before I list it? And so, I'm always going to tell you the same thing. It's mulch, plant, clean, paint, right? So that easy stuff. But really, what are the features of the home that fit into today's buyer? That's shifted a lot after COVID. People need, work from home space or a home gym type of scenario. So even if you can pre-stage a home to look like that. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like in the past it was easy to be a listing agent, look at what's selling and consult and advise your sellers based off of that? Whereas it seems like things have shifted a little bit, and if you're not actually talking to buyers, showing them houses, that the advice that you give to that seller could be lacking?
Absolutely. I mean, you should, understand the full perspective of, what people want and, how to make it look attractive to them. So I work with folks, all ages, all walks of life, and there's different, cultural perspectives. There's different, socioeconomic perspectives of, what a home should look like. And one of the things I usually hear when I walk into listing appointments is, oh, well, I'm so sorry about the mess. And then I usually, I look over at the mess, and that mess really is like on a scale of the most tidy home I've ever seen to, an absolute train wreck.
Yeah.
And I always say, listen, nobody's going to see it but me right now. This is what I do. My job is to help you make this home shine in its best light at the time of listing. So most folks are going to have things to do. I want the photos to look great. So here's what you can do to make the photos look great. See everything on that counter? Yeah, that has to go. Mm-hmm. So we'll take the photo and then go ahead, put it back on the counter. I think the photos are more important than even sometimes when the people see the house, because they're coming to the house having fallen in love with the photos, and they bring their checkbooks with them. So there's a different plan, different strategy I'm giving people for get ready for photo shoot day. Now, if you partner with a good photographer, they're going to also have, tips and things that they like, or, I want the table set this way, or I want the window blinds up, cars out of the driveway, those types of things. But then there's another strategy for showing day. So don't be so overwhelmed by, I have to do all these things to my house. Well, listen, let's get the photos done, okay? Mm-hmm. You don't need to, scrub the toilets and clean the shower just yet. Let's just tidy everything up. Let's vacuum. Let's make all the beds, shoot the photo. Now maybe you have 21 more days during the coming soon period to really get your house spick and span, because then people will be doing the white finger tests.
Right. We've talked about sellers previously. What do you experience as far as buyers? What are you seeing? Like, what's the market look like for a buyer?
Buyers are looking right now. I think it's going to be very, very active spring. They're having difficulty finding things, and traditionally that's a seasonable thing here. Okay, so it starts getting cold. Gosh, it's rained how many days in the last 2 months here? So any projects you wanted to get done to your house.
Every morning just seems like a dreary, rainy, muddy mess.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even remember like a morning that was like, oh, this is a good day to go get some stuff done.
Yeah, I mean, we had some warm weather, but things are soggy.
Yeah.
You roll right into the holidays that used to be, a December to Christmas type of event. Now it's like 2-3 months long. You're celebrating Christmas, and so things just get very busy around that time of year. After the new year, right where we're at, things start settling down. Folks are looking and swiping on their phones and checking their listings, and but the buyers always beat the sellers to the market. I think this. Honestly, it's a tough time to buy a house right now. I don't know if I'd want to be buying, unless you're buying it right now, because come March, April, May, I mean, it's a feeding frenzy. So that's when you're going to start seeing those listings coming out, because people got to plant a couple flowers, put some perennials out, throw a couple bags of mulch in the front, spruce your house up, get it ready, open all the windows, do the spring cleaning. That's when their house is going to show the best. For me personally, I have I've had some really nice trees behind our house. I wanted those trees to start to grow in a little bit, which created privacy, and I thought additional value to my house.
Right.
I do work with a lot of folks that want a private backyard, but come winter and those leaves are down, I mean, I'm practically looking at somebody's steak dinner in the house behind me.
Yeah.
So if something's getting listed now, I mean, there's activity on it, but the problem I'm seeing is that folks aren't pricing it accurately. They are pricing it still for what homes sold for.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry about that.
You're beating up my equipment there.
They're still pricing it what homes were selling for in July, August, at the end of the summer, at the end of the boom, and now buyers feel like they have some negotiating power, and they want to, which they do, and they want to find a good deal, and there's not a ton of deals out there, and if there is one, it's getting sold in 4, 5, 6, 7 days. It's going under contract. I'm seeing it, which leads me to believe it's going to be a very competitive spring market like it was last year. I don't think things are selling $100K over price like they were, but properties that are priced well and show well, and it's a cream puff, they're going to sell in the first weekend, and maybe get multiple offers.
So obviously rates affect the market. What do you think a high rate is?
A high rate,
like literally, what rates are we seeing right now, and where do things need to get to in order to start? Like what do you think's going to happen? Like, where do things need to get to start seeing things happen in the market?
I mean, look, this is looking into a huge crystal ball, right? So, who's to say what a good rate is? Okay.
I guess if I can clarify, what do you think a rate there? Like, what's a number that you think the market would react to? I think
like going out and being able to, like a standard home buyer, not having, let's just say a good credit score, they want to purchase their first home, going out and getting a 4 to a 4.5 is going to be something that they can work with. When you step into the 5s and 6s and 7% rates that we saw, there's hesitation, because affordability just goes out the window because of that huge increase in values. Like, let's say 20 to 30% in places, and maybe even more. Most folks that were preparing to buy a house, they've been preparing maybe for even a couple years, in the sense that like they've been looking at things but not really been in the right position or the time of life, or as they when I decided I'm going to buy a house, I had wanted to buy a house for 2 to 3 years, and just all the pieces didn't align for me yet. So when I was looking at houses, let's say I'm looking at houses that are $400,000, right? By the time it comes around, and I'm looking and there's not a lot of inventory. Maybe I find one I like. I'd love to see it, then I take that first step. By the time, that second year had rolled around, like that house is $550,000, $600,000 now. So right. I can't really afford it. And then as the rates have climbed too, now it's way out of my zone, because people are thinking of affordability in terms of monthly payment.
Okay, so one thing I want to add is that people see how much a house is selling over asking, but when I was looking at the data from like the last couple months of the housing market, the reports, I started seeing that gap close. And if you're just looking at how much things are going over asking, it doesn't seem like that number is getting smaller. That also means that people are pricing more accordingly too. So I think when people were getting 100K over asking, part of it was, well, maybe that house was 50K under what they should have been asking for, and I've seen that over too. So and I know from like a professional mindset, obviously, we're looking at different things for different reasons, but I think a lot of homeowners were seeing that, like, oh my gosh, the houses were going for so much over asking, the market's crazy, and then they would see like, oh, it's not going, they were making judgments on that. It's like, well, don't forget how things were priced will also affect that too. So I just tend to throw that out there.
Well, we saw, a great amount of reductions in price following those interest rate hikes. There's still folks that are chasing that market backwards, reducing the price of their home. So I'm finding a lot of folks they follow the property now down, and that's not where you want to be, because
you mean they follow the market, like they're chasing the market?
Yes, in a sense, but a particular property too. They're even less inclined to. I might get a couple we call them low ball offers, right? It's probably an offer that's more accurate to market value, but they're not taking a swing, because they're anticipating, oh, well, it'll take a price reduction and then we'll go see it. So it's hurting traffic on new listings when, our sellers are just pricing it way too high. So that's just something I've been dealing with. And now, it looks like a negative reflection on the agent many times. In my defense, some of these folks that listed their home, I sat with them last February and we talked about listing their property, and I gave them a price, and month after month, oh, we're doing a few, we have a busy time, with work, or, we're anticipating family coming in, we'll get that project done the next month. And month after month, the market greatly shifted. So come time to list it, well, now they're way too high, because I told you that price for that day and time and world that we were living in. So, I can advise you that this is not a good strategy. You want to price accurately, if not slightly underpriced, and you'll get your multiple offers and allow people to bid to their very best, put their best foot forward on it, because there's a sense of competition.
Right.
People are competitive in nature. They want to buy a commodity or an asset that is highly valued in others' eyes. So, folks that are priced too high, they're struggling right now. Do we see that change? I don't know. I think last year people were almost starting to get greedy, and in many cases it was paying off for them. So, it's monkey see, monkey do out there.
Because I can imagine the sellers like that are attracting the worst buyers. The buyers who are like, I'm going to throw something out there. We'll see what they say, and then we'll renegotiate it a couple times. And then, it's like you're asking for the buyer, like that same, like that. The energy you're putting out there and selling, you're going to get back in the buying. And that buyer is going to be sitting there like, well, maybe I can nickel and dime them right here, while you're sitting there saying, well, I can nickel, Well,
and you've bought a home, Sean, and you show homes. Let me ask you, when your client walks into a house, what's one of the first questions they ask you? how many days has this been on the market?
Right.
3.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the price is the price, right? So I'm thinking, and especially if there's, somebody parked in the car in front of the house waiting for your showing to finish, you feel like there's less room to negotiate.
Or you probably should. I've had people say like, "Hey, do you think they'll take X number? Take this number?" I'm like,
"There's the price is the price.
It's been on the market for 24 hours.
The price is the price the first week.
We'll have this,
if not more. It's not under.
Let's talk next week, and we'll have this conversation again."
And when I saw a house 45 days, that's when the sharks start swarming, right?
Yes.
So. But now it's like 20 days. That's what we were just saying. They call me saying, "I see this house is on the market 20 days. Like, what's wrong with it? 20 days, come on." And the guy was all upset. I sold, $1 million property in, 40 some days. I was like, come on, buddy. That's normal.
Right.
So we need to understand the absorption rates. We need to understand that there's a sliding scale. This is how fast your home will sell in XYZ price ranges. And now it's great. The HomeSnap app we've partnered with our MLS, they give you that tool on there. So I use that often. I show them. I say, look, don't take my word for it. Take artificial intelligence's word for it. And I show them the scale. Here's what the house. So if they don't really have that motivation to sell, they're going to take their own word and say, I want to see if I can get it.
Right.
So, for those folks, I think sometimes, a lot of times, it works out for them, but more often than not, they're not going to get as much.
I think. Okay, so how important do you think it is for an agent to be working with both buyers and sellers? Is that important? Is it better to have an agent that specializes in one or the other, or does one inform the other, one hand wash the other?
Good question. I think there's a lot of variables to that as well. How experienced is that agent on both, buy and sell sides? Because some, there's team structures that have listing specialist or buyer's agent. Well, typically, whether that person wants that position or not, they become very, very good at what their job title is. Okay, so these team leaders are hiring, positionally. Just like McDonald's would. They hire somebody to do fries. And that fry guy becomes the best fry guy in the whole building. He can cook fries like nobody else can. There's many cases where if he works really hard or he or she works really hard, does a great job, he or she might move up to grill. Okay, now there's a secondary position where you take on more responsibility. But they learn that one role very well. So as the standard agent out there in the trenches, you're asked to sell all kinds of different properties, really not many of which you specialize in. I'd always recommend people to stay in their lane. That's when you can typically get yourself in trouble or lead your clients down a path that they don't want to be. But you do need to be a bit of a jack of all trades. So while I do find that it's important to maintain a balance, because in last year's market, having a seller was gold. It was put the sign in the yard and take some beautiful photos and do your marketing, and it's sold. And with the buyers, it was a lot more time intensive.
Yeah.
Your drive-in and gas prices were skyrocketing, and all those things need to be considered. So now it's shifted. I think this is going to be a bit of a good time to carry a lot of buyers.
Well, there's a lot of agents who just didn't take buyers.
Yeah.
They just like, well, I'm just going to do selling or listing. This is easy. I feel like you lose a little bit of a perspective because you it's so important to know what the conversation is being had on the other side of the table.
You're absolutely right. I prefer to work with buyers. Okay, so recently I've become more of a listing guy. I do typically try to carry some listing inventory, and I think I do top-notch job of it.
Yeah. A lot of people agree, actually.
The buying side is the rewarding side. That's why I got into this business, was to help give the keys to somebody and help them actualize their dreams of buying a home. Right. So we we're selling the American dream. So
yeah, I mean, it's awesome. Like a couple years later, 10 years later, you're talking to someone, and you're at their house, and you're like, oh man, remember how crazy that was when we first moved in? Like you're building that dream. Whereas selling's cool, but it's like, hey, how are you enjoying Florida, and what did you do with the money you made?
Those folks are going somewhere else. Okay, a lot of folks are relocating, they're downsizing, they're moving into a different sphere than you are in when they sell their home. So now the best listing agents are able to maintain these relationships, but many times can be a transactional type relationship.
Right.
I go in on a blind interview. I've never met them. And maybe I get them from a lead source, or I found that lead myself, or they were referred to call me, or they saw the sign, the sold sign, not the sale sign sitting there forever and ever. And we just started to form a relationship. Now, I'm a salesperson, so they don't like me, they don't know me, they don't trust me is probably their first perception. If I sell their home very fast and get them the best price, well, they love me for this short amount of time, but I really haven't had the time to build and grow this relationship. And by the time it's all said and done, and we're no longer working in a business capacity, it's bon voyage. They're sailing into the sunset. Whereas the buyers, I'm showing them homes. They're going through, an emotional process of buying something with their hearts and heads. Mm-hmm. It's usually more time intensive. And then I'm easily able to maintain that relationship because I'm seeing pictures of their bathroom remodel on Facebook and Instagram. Mm-hmm. And, I'm able to follow the progress of, them. I can watch them grow and still have attached memories myself.
It's more rewarding. Yeah.
So that's what we do this for. So you can lose that perspective when you're focusing heavily on listing, and then it becomes about, well, these folks aren't looking for. They're saying they're looking to cut ties with their relationships here. They're looking to move somewhere else and start new relationships. So it becomes transactional, and it becomes about how fast did you sell my home? How was your communication, right? And how much did you get me for my property? So it becomes very data-driven. But I like to carry that balance because you want to have that perspective for your client's best interest. You want to walk in and be able to walk them through their home like a buyer will. And you only know that if you're walking buyers through homes and properties. You're going to say, well, I'll tell you, I love this room, but my wife's going to hate that. She's not going to pay this price if that's not fixed, right? So those little, anecdotes to be able to give people, it's, there's your value.
Right. Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate that. That's a huge help. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Sure. HomesSweetHomes.com. Bobby Hulmes, the Home Sweet Homes team. You can catch me on the web or call me at RE/MAX ACE Realty.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Chester County Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by RE/MAX ACE Realty, serving buyers and sellers in the Chester County area. Subscribe for new episodes at acerealtypa.com/podcast. And you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever podcasts are found.